If you love fried foods as much as we do, you're going to want to keep that fried food crispier for longer.
And today on WTF, we're going to look at crisp coat and how you can add it to your recipe to keep it crispy, or add it to a recipe like corn dogs or fried shallots. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guerin.
And I'm Janie Wang, one of the owners of Modernist Pantry. So today Scott and I will be covering crisp coat, which is one of our favorite frying agents. And if you haven't tuned into WTF before, every week we talk about unique ingredients and techniques, as well as demo recipes on how you can start using them in your own kitchen. So if you do like what you see, remember to ring the bell, subscribe, and do whatever it is that you have to do today in order to get our fresh content. It does come out every single Tuesday, so we're always cooking something up here in the test kitchen. Now, diving into crisp coat, if you haven't already, I would recommend checking out our frying episode. It's one of the first ones that we did. The links will be in the description below. And in that episode, we covered batter bind, crisp coat, Evercrisp, and how they kind of work together to create kind of the perfect crispy coating to anything that you might possibly want to fry. But today we're going to go into detail specifically about crisp coat. So Scott, why don't we start with an intro on, what is crisp coat, what's it made of, and some common uses for them.
Sure. So crisp coat is a mixture of a cornstarch, like a high amylose cornstarch, and a soluble fiber from tapioca. Mm-hmm. So what that does is it allows you to have a frying like breader that doesn't have a lot of protein, which you could get from flour. Actually, with crisp coat is really nice. Is you can almost go up to 100%. You can just fry just in crisp coat because of how it's made. So if you're doing a really, really thin fry on something like tempura or whatnot, you can use just crisp coat, which is great. But what we're doing today is we're going to actually have it in two different things. So a really thin, crispy coating, and then a little bit thicker of a batter. So, and it's really good because it's versatile, all the way down to 10% to 90 or 100% of the breader or batter that you're making.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was wondering about. So is crisp coat dry or wet only, or you can do both? You
can do whatever you want with it. Mm-hmm. So it's going to replace some of the flour in a current recipe, or if you're just going to use, let's just say with the shallots that I'm going to make today, I just mixed some flour, and I didn't want to do all flour, so I just did 50% crisp coat, and that's all it is. It's just 50% flour, 50% crisp coat.
Yeah, and for folks who have experimented with some of our frying agents before, if they've used Evercrisp, can you briefly talk about the main differences between Evercrisp and crisp coat?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the main differences between Evercrisp, crisp coat, and batter bind, because they are all three of them are used for frying, but they're all very different. Mm-hmm. So crisp coat is one, like I said, you can use just crisp coat if you wanted to. You can add it to things, so it's kind of like the liaison between Evercrisp and something like just a cornstarch, which you can use cornstarch just in regular breaders, but this is so much better because you kind of take out just that moisture holding properties of cornstarch and flour. With Evercrisp, if you were trying to bread something just in Evercrisp, it would not work. I've tried it. I thought, well, why can't I go up to 100%? Then you try and fry it, it all kind of falls off. It gets kind of tacky when it's just by itself. So it doesn't necessarily work in the same way as crisp coat. And batter bind's great. It doesn't necessarily make things crispy. It just helps the batter bind, adhere to the outside of things. So actually with our corn dog recipe here, there is batter bind in it. So, putting in the hot dogs that we have here, it'll help hold on to that batter.
Yeah, to find out more about batter bind and Evercrisp, in addition to the general frying episode, we also do have individual WTFs all about those two ingredients, and that will also be in the description below. And if you do want to kind of try them out, on our website, we have a fry combo pack, so it's kind of like small packages of each one of those. It's a great way to get started, to play around with it and have some fun. So I think, in talking about crisp coat, it's a pretty easy ingredient to understand, helps make things crispy. What do we have to show people today to kind of see it in action?
Sure, so I already kind of talked about it. We have the corn dog recipe that we made, which is nice. It's take on a normal corn dog, but we also caramelized fresh corn. We add it into the batter, so you get like a really nice full corn flavor. So sometimes it just tastes like kind of a really mild like corn bread, but this has like a really potent corn flavor, and it's crispy, and it goes on the outside of hot dogs. And if you make our hot dog recipe, which is on our blog, which you can find in the description below, all the recipes will be down there. What we did is we took it, we made little 20 gram or half ounce balls of our hot dog, and now we're going to do that rather than having to do a full size. But we will do some full size corn dogs because why not, So really quickly, I have my oil. It's about 350 degrees, and then I just have our hot dog, which we formed into a ball, which that I could just put right in. I don't have to put any pre-breading, and I always like to get a little bit on the stick because it's going to kind of help seal all the way around, especially something with as much moisture and fat as the hot dog. So you can see how well it's sticking on the outside. If I just pop it in the oil for just a second, you can see it starts to puff up just a little bit, and then we'll let it go. We tried to make like little lollipops out of them just so they're like a nice hors d'oeuvre, but we tried to use lollipop sticks, and those just sucked up all the oil, and they were super hot when they came out. They didn't cool down, and they got greasy, so we just went with like skewers, and we just snipped them with a pair of kitchen shears.
Okay, and are those frozen?
Nope, they're not frozen. There's just a little bit of fat on the outside from them. So yeah, they're just refrigerated. Yeah, but they're not in a casing, so the fat is a little bit on the outside. So just get this in here. Great. Then we'll show you a quick one. The reason why I put it into like this quart container, because it's a nice tall container. I can do something like a normal hot dog here, and this is just a store-bought hot dog you can get at any grocery store. But if I take it and I press it down, just give it a quick roll, you can get that really nice corn
I can
dog.
see your corn pieces in there as well.
Yep, there's two different types of, so there's semolina and there's also cornmeal in there. So we're going to get like a really good, difference in texture. You get a little tiny bit of crunch from that, coarse cornmeal. All right, great. So while those are going.
Okay, and how much crisp coat is in this particular recipe?
So it's 50% of the flour.
Okay.
Right, so, or 100%. So I took, we'll say 220 grams of flour, there's 220 grams of crisp coat, so equal amounts there. So
1-to-1 ratio.
Yep, 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to just let these, and you may have to flip them, right? Just because they'll become buoyant, they'll sit up at the top.
And I personally love fried foods, but I hate it when fried foods get just too greasy because they sucked up too much oil.
Yes.
Does crisp coat have any, assistance in that and preventing that from happening?
Well, whenever you use something like a soluble fiber or whatnot, it tends to repel the oil a little bit, but you're never going to get 100% where it's completely keeping the oil out of the batter, because it has to do something to the outside. So. Yeah, so this one, it's not going to be greasy because of how thick the batter is, but you're going to have a really great crispy outside and not a greasy interior. So just give that a quick
Wonderful.
twirl. Great. So I'm turning this up just a little bit, compensate. All right, so then we have a few other things that are going to go with them. While those fry, here we have, it's HP sauce, and if you're ever familiar with HP sauce, it's kind of a British condiment. It's like a really kind of sour ketchup.
Okay.
But this is our own version of it, so it's a bit sweeter, so it's a little bit more balanced. It's tomatoes, dates, spices, ginger, and it's made like a ketchup, so it's nice and hearty and thick. And you can dip the corn dog in that. You could go for straight yellow mustard, but we kind of prefer this. This is really nice. Give a nice balance, to the fattiness of corn that's fried, and a hot dog. You get a little bit of like a sweeter acidic sauce. And then this dish right here is actually one of my favorite dishes. We're going to make another condiment for that, or not condiment, but topping garnish for it. And that's what we're going to put our scallions. There's going to be scallions.
Shallots.
Shallots. There we go. Hopefully I didn't call them scallions before, because then there's comments coming my way. Right. So
they're shallots.
Yeah. So we're going to do crispy shallots, and we cut the shallots extremely thin, and then we put them in 50-50 ratio of flour and crisp coat, and just that. We didn't add any milk to it. We didn't add any pre-dredge to it. It's just the shallots and the 50-50 shallot. 50-50 flour and crisp coat, and then just mix it up, and I'm just going to pop it into the fryer, and they are done within about 30 seconds, which is a really nice thing, because you can do it at home in a shallow pan with just a little bit of oil, just enough for them to float. So we'll see that in just a moment. So I'm going to take out our first corn dogs. You can see how beautiful, golden brown, and delicious they are.
Ooh. This is normally why I try to eat it too soon and then it burns my mouth terribly.
For sure. So we have those two. And I'll leave the big one in here for just a moment. It needs to be flipped a little bit. So while that's happening, you can take these. If you have kitchen fingers, you can then get them onto the plate. Right. We'll give that a few minutes before you start digging in, Janie.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, we don't want to burn your face off here on WTF. It'll be hard for you to finish the episode. So really quickly, I'll just show you. Since I have here my shallots, I just dusted them in the flour and crisp coat, and I'm just going to gently take off any of that flour and crisp coat. This can be used over and over again until it's pretty much gone, because it's not picking up any moisture. And we did a little test. We wanted to test really, wet foods. We did celery, and we did other vegetables that just have a high water content. And we shaved them extremely thin. We dusted them in this, and then we fried them. And they all work the same way. As long as they're nice and thin, you can keep the nice, beautiful color, like carrots even worked. So without getting completely soggy, these worked really well. And you can see these shallots are beautiful. They're all separated, almost like mini onion rings, right? So once this corn dog comes out, I can pop these in, and they'll be done in no time. So we have this larger corn dog. I'll just leave here for now. You can see it absolutely works. Nice and crispy on the outside. This one, just make sure you want to get as much off, mainly because you don't want it to be sitting at the bottom of the fryer. Any pan that you're frying in, you want to get as much of the breading off. Not because it's going to stick to the outside, it's just going to float to the bottom, and then it's going to burn.
Right.
So quickly pop these in. That's an exciting shot. Down there. And I'm just going to move it around. You can see the steam. So once the steam starts to go away, I know that they are done.
That is really fast.
Yes. So the steam's starting to dissipate, and I am going to pop these out. All right. If there's any little tidbits of corn dog, I can easily just pluck them out. But if you let them go any longer, they will tend to burn. And actually, we used these in a more recent episode. I believe it was episode 170 when we did the soy milk powder, and we put it on top of our vegan mac and cheese, right? So this is a dish that I had in New York City, and when I had it for the first time, it was like the best dish I had ever had in my life, just because it's so well balanced. And it's a dish inspired by sambar, so it's their similar to their Chinese spicy sausage and rice cakes, and it's got this beautiful sauce, which we made our rendition, and we'll put it on the blog so you guys can make it as well. But when I had it, had scallions on it, which I have here, so I'm going to pop some scallions on the top of it just to show you the final kind of garnish.
Ooh.
And it's quite a bit of scallions, more than you think you need. That's when you know you've done it right. And then the crispy shallots can go right on top.
Wow, look how great that looks.
Yes. And even more. Right? And Janie, be my guest, 'cause that is ready to eat.
I know, I almost
that
don't
was hot when I put it on the table, so it's probably perfect temperature right now.
I almost don't want to ruin it because it looks so, it just
Oh,
looks so
man,
nice.
I got plenty. I made it for lunch.
There we go. All right, I'm going to grab one
Get
from
some
the back.
of the crispy shallots with it. That's when it's perfect.
There you go.
So the sauce is sweet, it's spicy, it's salty, it's rich, and then you get the chewiness of those rice cakes, and you get the really, kind of fattiness of the pork, because I go to a local Asian market, they have their own ground pork there, and it's like extremely high ratio in fat. It's about 70-30, so it's really great, and then you can just make this super great dish. And there's a little bit of mustard greens and some Chinese broccoli in there too, for your health. And but it's one of those dishes that I could probably have every day.
Yeah, it's super good. I've never been to Sambar, but I'm like, oh, next time I go to New York, I should go.
I believe any one of their restaurants has like a similar rendition of this. But you got to try the corn dog as well, Jane. I know that's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Not the.
I'd eat the 30% fat pork first.
So.
All right, this is ready?
Yep, these are ready, and I would suggest a little dunk in the And the HP, if you've ever been to England, brown sauce.
I know. I'm shameful to say I have been to England, but I did not know the HP.
I mean, you can get it in America too. So.
It's good.
Good, crispy, nice, fatty, rich.
Yeah, and I like corn dogs, but sometimes I feel like the batter is so thick that it's like all you can taste is a whole bunch of batter and a tiny amount of hot dog. Yeah. This is like the perfect.
Yeah, we were testing that out. We didn't want it to be, a whole set of cornbread along with a hot dog. We wanted it to be that you could have 2 or 3 of them and still feel comfortable. So that's kind of what we went for with this, and we're happy with the batter that came out of it.
Yeah, and the fresh corn is nice because it gives it like a little bit of added texture as well. So these are great. Like, they're super tasty. I think you can make hors d'oeuvres out of them, small plates, whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to have like a Christmas get-together, a holiday get-together, then you could absolutely have a ton of these, and I think everyone would be happy.
I know. It's super good.
And you can put anything pretty much onto one of those sticks and then fry it, and it'll be delicious.
So, the quick recap is crisp coat is easy to use.
Super easy to use.
You just mix it into your flour, starting at, 10%?
Yeah, so the best thing is if you have a recipe that you like and you want to improve it, you notice there's a few issues with it, it gets soggy quick, or it doesn't stay crispy once it's out of the fryer, whatever it happens to be, you can add crisp coat, just replace some of the flour with crisp coat, and it'll work the exact same way it did, just a little bit better. But one thing people do tend to send me a message about is they're like, what's the difference between crisp coat and crisp film?
Oh, yeah.
And quickly, crisp film is made for fruit glass and things like that. It just has a similar name to crisp coat. Crisp coat is used for frying, just so people know if they're coming here for that issue, then they'll know by that description of it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So definitely give it a shot. Whatever you choose to do with it, leave your comments, let us know what you think. And all these recipes, as always, will be up on the blog and in the description below, so you can always access them. So from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Guerin. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. And turn that bell on because it notifies you when we drop a new video.
If you like any of today's recipes, go to blog.modernistpantry.com. There you'll find recipes, Ask a Chefs, and tips and tricks, and more.
And if you have a friend who you think would like this video, share it with them.
And to get any of these great ingredients, just go to our website, www.modernistpantry.com.
And until next time, we'll be here in the Test Kitchen, helping you create memorable and magical experiences.